If you're like me and you're really excited about the upcoming release of Spider-Man No Way Home, I mean, who isn't? Folk are literally fighting the street over getting tickets. I mean, I'm excited to see it, but I'm not that excited. But yeah, if you're like me, you're probably making your way through all the old Spider-Man films from Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield through to the Tom Holland era. I certainly have been doing that. I've just got Homecoming and No Way Home to watch. But I didn't actually have any of the old Spider-Mans, so I seen something pop up on Amazon, and it was the original Spider-Man trilogy on 4K in this handy one case package, and I thought, I'm for that for my rewatch. So let's find out my thoughts on it and whether or not it's worth you picking it up. So firstly, I'll just talk a little bit about the packaging. I know the Spider-Man films, the Sam Raimi ones, have been available in 4K for a wee while now, like a couple of years, but this is certainly a new addition in this kind of one case packaging. It's pretty basic. I like the slip, it's alright. Nothing too exciting, but does the job, and it's just the same underneath, and on the back it's just text explaining the specs of the film. You get 6 discs, so you get the 4K and the standard Blu-ray with all the special features for all 3 films, as you can see here, and that's pretty much it. I grabbed this on Amazon for 25 quid. It does retail for 30 on Amazon normally, but they offered me a £5 voucher, so I got it for 25 quid, so that's like £8.33 or something, a film, which I thought was too good to knock back, hence I jumped at it. I think on Black Friday, HMV were doing 20% off, but sadly I didn't get the video out in time, so it'll probably be back to £30, but I think it is quite hard to get just now, just because everybody had the same idea, but hopefully it'll pop up and be available again soon. When it comes to the 3 films themselves, I'm a big fan of the Sam Raimi trilogy, I have to say. I was just at the right age, I suppose, when it came out. 2002, the first Spider-Man came out, and I was 16, so that kind of perfect age you could really relate to a character like Spider-Man and the way Tobey Maguire certainly portrayed him. I did think I liked all 3 until I did the rewatch again recently, and I just properly realised just how bad Spider-Man 3 is. I mean, it's got some saving graces, some good action sequences and whatnot. The bit at the end's alright, I suppose, and the best scene is probably Bruce Campbell's appearance as the restaurateur. That's a really funny scene that I think captures the spirit of the first 2, but apart from that, it's totally a bit different. Dancing Spider-Man and all that, just a lot of nonsense, but it was still fun revisiting it, I suppose. I hadn't seen it in about 12 years. But yeah, the second one for me is the best of the lot. It's a kind of perfect superhero film. I think even today, with all the Marvel universe and all that stuff, Spider-Man 2 still holds its own. It's held up well. Yeah, the special effects are maybe not as good as they are these days, but certainly in this 4K transfer, they still look pretty good, and they've been cleaned up really nicely. The first one is, as I say, I was 16 when I seen that, and just seeing Spider-Man on the big screen was a bit of a dream come true, and that'll always hold a special place in my heart. So it's between 1 and 2. I think 2 gets the edge, but I'll always have that kind of nostalgic love of the first one. It's just a great film. But now on to where it counts. Picture quality and audio. Let's start with the picture quality first. So all 3 films certainly do get, technically anyway, a proper upgrade on the format, both in video and audio. So all 3 discs have Dolby Vision as far as HDR is concerned. All 3 films were also shot on film originally, and those negatives have been rescanned to create 4K digital intermediates. So full fat 4K restorations across all 3 films. Aspect ratio wise, Spider-Man is the only one with a full screen 185:1 aspect ratio, whereas Spider-Man 2 and 3 have the more typical 240:1 aspect ratio, so you will get the black letterbox bars at top and bottom of your screen for those 2. Starting with the first movie, I have to say, although it's the nicest it's ever looked, Dolby Vision certainly plays a big part in that. The colours are a bit more vibrant, a bit more lifelike, and the specular highlight is there, but not in a huge abundance. Explosions, car headlamps, all the nighttime scenes are given a better contrast, and it's definitely more pleasing. But the overall image, as far as kind of clarity goes, is quite inconsistent. Sometimes it can be quite soft. It's very grain heavy. They haven't DNR'd it or softened it digitally too much, which I think is a good thing. It's best to try and preserve that and make sure we don't lose the detail. But Spider-Man, the first one, certainly isn't going to blow you away. I think if you've got a Blu-ray and certainly a 4K TV that you watch that on, I don't think you're going to see a massive uptick. But HDR does give it that little bit of an edge over the original Blu-ray presentation. On to Spider-Man 2 though, and I think Spider-Man 2 for me is the best looking of the 3. HDR in the form of Dolby Vision is superb here. All the scenes where Doc Ock is experimenting, especially at the beginning, when the tritium experiment goes wrong and that fireball thing tears up the lab with all the spectators watching, that's just so vibrant. And when Spider-Man pulls out the electric cables at that scene and towards the end, when a kind of similar scene happens at the end, you really do get the benefit of the specular highlight there, and it really does pop off the screen. That was really noticeable when I watched it. But yeah, specular highlight throughout the films there, the contrast levels are better, and I felt it was a much more consistent image with regards to the clarity of it. So I think it is a good step up over the Blu-ray, and it's just a much more pleasing image, more what you'd expect from a 4K upgrade of a movie. So yeah, definitely a big uptick over the Blu-ray as far as picture quality is concerned for Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 3 is the cleanest looking of the lot, and that's just because it was filmed the most recently, probably with better spec cameras and whatnot. Similar to Spider-Man 2, the Dolby Vision specular highlight is more present in this one. Venom's suit, I mean, Venom is an absolute abomination, but at least on this 4K transfer, he looks pretty cool. There's plenty of action in Spider-Man 3, so the explosions, especially Harry playing the Green Goblin, whenever he's throwing those hobgoblin bombs about and the explosions are going off and the sparks that come off those crazy batarang things that he throws, they really jump off the screen and just make those scenes much more impactful. So again, like Spider-Man 2, the Dolby Vision is very present in Spider-Man 3, and it's definitely a big uptick. The image quality is really good, as I say, nice and clean and quite 4K crispy. But I would say across all three films, none of them are particularly referenced. I just felt that because Spider-Man 2 is quite old now, what's that, 2004, so more than 15 years old, I just thought hit that sweet spot for a restoration. Spider-Man 3 already looked pretty good, that's why I wasn't as impressed with that. But yeah, Spider-Man 2 is the best looking for me, and well, just good across the board, with Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man, being a bit weak. On to the audio though, and this is really where these discs come into their own. This is the big upgrade for me. I'm just going to speak about all three of them. The Dolby Atmos on these films is absolutely sensational. They've done a brilliant job up mixing the original DTS HD 5.1 track, and those tracks are still on the accompanying Blu-rays, just in case you're wondering. But yeah, the Dolby Atmos is absolutely fantastic. The bass throughout all three is crazy. That scene I was telling you about with the tritium experiment in Spider-Man 2 is ridiculous. It does feel like your own room's been torn apart, as is the set in the movie. But yeah, plenty of directional stuff. Whenever Spider-Man's web swinging through the city, depending on where he shoots his web, you'll hear that in the corresponding channels, and the height stuff's there as well. You do get enveloped in the sound, and it's brilliant reference Dolby Atmos tracks across all three. A brief word on the special features. I didn't previously own the Spider-Man films, except Spider-Man 3 actually, on Blu-ray, so I can't really speak for what's been ported across, but certainly I was pleasantly surprised with what's on this trilogy. I thought it'd be totally vanilla. I thought it would just be the movies with nothing else, but it would appear that all the special features that have been on previous releases seem to be, there's that many of them anyway, that it seems to be that they're all there. Spider-Man 1 has the fewest, and Spider-Man 2 has loads, and I should also mention at this point that Spider-Man 2.1 is on the Blu-ray also, which I thought was a really nice touch, but sadly the 4K version of the film is the theatrical cut only. But there's plenty of features for Spider-Man 2, loads that probably came out with the original release, and then loads of additional ones that kind of explain the decisions made with dropping and adding shots for Spider-Man 2.1. So yeah, plenty to get stuck into, certainly in the second one. And Spider-Man 3 has loads of features, commentaries, all the stuff you would expect. However, just briefly skipping through them, there doesn't seem to be anything new at all added for this release. It's all stuff that's previously been available. So with all that said and done, can I recommend this version of the original Spider-Man trilogy in 4K? Yeah, I definitely can. I think it's a great value pick. I was very surprised with the amount of special features that were on it, considering it is the kind of vanilla version. Picture quality wise, they're not reference. As I say, Spider-Man 2 is the strongest of the lot. They are all an uptick on the Blu-ray, but just manage your expectation with regards the three of them, especially the first one. But I think you will be impressed, certainly with Spider-Man 2 and 3. That's my thoughts on the picture quality. Audio-wise, these are absolute reference, and this is the reason, to be honest, if you've got a good home cinema setup that's Atmos capable, this is why you should be buying these on 4K. Packaging is very simple. It's not sexy. It's not going to look great in your collection, but you get a lot of bang for your buck with this. If you can pick this up for 25 quid or less, it's an absolute steal. But even at the recommended price of 30, I think it's still very good value. £10 for each one of these films is more than worth it. So yeah, definitely if you're doing your Spider-Man rewatch and you want them in 4K, this is a very good place to start. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a like and please consider subscribing to the channel for more 4K Blu-ray content. And in the meantime, why not watch another one of my 4K reviews or a video about Spider-Man.